Hi, I'm Daniel, and this is my Eecs 281 application. Today I'll be talking about hash collisions and how to resolve them. So there are two main methods. There's separate chaining, and then there's open addressing, and open addressing has multiple different methods that we'll talk about, so 4 in total. So first, separate chaining is this idea of where if a hashing function runs into a collision, instead of trying and okay, backtrack real quick. Every bucket in the hash table will come with its own linked list. So whenever a hash function runs into a collision, it'll just insert it into the back or front of the linked list. And that is like good if you have a really good hashing function, and it can like evenly distribute the keys to every bucket. Like basically, like yeah, the goal for like is to have every bucket evenly sized, so that it won't take like n time to find a value in the bucket, because like all the keys hash to the same bucket or something like that. And then and next is the next three are all methods of, or moving on to the next three, they're all open addressing. So that's basically when they run into a collision, they look for empty spots on the table, on the hash table, instead of directly resolving the collision at the hashed value or hash key value. So the first one is linear probing, where if it runs into a collision, it'll just look to the right of it and find an empty spot. And like if it doesn't, it'll just keep moving to the right and seeing if that next bucket is an empty spot. And if it does, it'll put its key and value there. And then quadratic probing is pretty similar to linear probing, except it's just quadratic. Like, so like if you see a collision, you'll move 1 to the right, and then if that's full, then you move 3 to the right, which is like 1 plus 3 equals 4. So like 1 squared, and then you add 2 squared to the original hash value, and then 3 squared to the original hash value if the previous buckets were full. And then you keep going until you find an empty bucket. And it also brings up the concept of like load factor, where you have to ensure that all your, like for open addressing, you have to ensure that all your buckets aren't full. So you have this like specific load factor, where the load factor is the number of buckets that are full, or like, and the number of total buckets. So there's like this like like percentage of like how full is my hash table, and when do I want, or like how full do I want it until I like add more buckets to the hash table. Sorry, I have a bit of a sore throat. And then so like that's the concept with open addressing, where like at some point when like you run out of bucket space, like you have to add new buckets and rehash. And then double hashing is where the last method is called double hashing. It's also another open addressing method, and it essentially it'll have a hash for the key value, and then I will have a hash function for the key to hash it to bucket value, and then it'll have a different hash function to calculate the spacing that it checks. So like it's like linear probing, except instead of going by 1, it'll go by a separate hash function. So like it could be like anywhere from like 1 to like who knows, depending on the hash function. And that just adds more variability into the process. I think. Thanks for watching.